Okay, good evening, everyone. I am Jahaira Arias. I am co-chair of Traffic and Transportation for Community Board number 7. Today was our meeting this evening, and I'm going to read the guidelines as follows. The committee agendas are as follows. On September 2nd, 2021, Governor Kathy Hochul signed into law Chapter 417 of the laws of 2021, which authorizes the community board to run this meeting remotely, and the minutes will be taken for record keeping. The minutes will appear on our website within days and can be requested from the Bronx CD7 staff at any time. If you're calling into the meeting on the conference, controls while joining from a landline or cell by calling a dial-up number. To hear all available commands, enter ** on your phone. *6 to mute or unmute yourself. *9 is a virtual raise hand. How we will run this meeting will be as follows. Code of conduct for meetings, penalties and actions. Bronx Community Board 7 has the right to remove and or ask a member of the public to leave a meeting or block participation of anyone who engages in inappropriate conduct, including but not limited to obscene or offensive images or language, personal attacks, threats, or any other behavior that reasonably impedes the orderly administration of the meeting. Repeated offenses will be reviewed by the board's executive committee or any other assigned committee for a ban. The amount of time to be objectively determined by the above committees of the participants in the event of a repeated disruptive behavior. If in-person outbursts or attacks continue, this will be considered disturbing the peace and the authority shall be summoned. Okay. Everyone besides the speaker presenter will stay muted throughout the meeting. After each presenter is over, I will inquire if a committee members have questions. Committee members will signify that they have a question by pressing the raise hand button on your screen, Zoom, or request to speak through the chat when the chair opens the floor. Members of the public who have joined through the online link will be able to ask questions and make brief statements on the items after each presentation and after the committee has had an opportunity to ask clarifying questions by pressing the raise hand button on your screen, or request to speak through the chat or when the chair opens the floor. Only those recognized by the chair of the committee will be allowed to speak during the allotted time. We will stay on topic with the agenda items. Any other items will be acknowledged by the chair in new business or addressed at the next meeting, granted there is time and committee agrees on the topic. Following the questions, discussions, and public comment portion of the the committee will begin their discussions after each presentation agenda item and will conclude with a decision to vote on recommendations. When the agenda is finished, the meeting will be adjourned. If there are any questions related to the meeting software or to our process, please use the chat function or raise your hand function now or contact our district manager. Okay, so we've gone through our guidelines. We're going to move on to attendance. Here we know Edgar Ramos is absent. Jahaira Arias present. Eric Asensio.
Eric Asensio present.
You, Lowell Green.
Lowell Green is present.
Andrew Leosa.
Andrew Leosa present.
Hi, Andrew. Thank you. And Daisy Perry.
Daisy Perry present.
So we have a quorum. So we will move on to the agenda. I'm going to put it up on the screen. 1 second, so that we can. Did everybody get it? Those that received the email, did they have a chance to look at the agenda that we're going to be talking about this evening? Can everybody see the screen? Okay, so we've gone through meeting guidelines, the introduction, a review of last month's minutes. I don't have them, so we will come back to those at the next meeting with Edgar. Okay, so any follow-ups from last month? Anyone has any follow-up questions? If you do, let me know now, raise your hand or put your information in the chat, and we will try to make sure that we answer your questions. So I'll give you guys a minute or so. Great. Okay, so I see nothing in the chat and no one raised their hand with regards to anything following up from last month. So let's move on to new business. And I believe we have DOT present with us tonight. Am I correct?
You are correct. Good evening.
Hi, good
Hi,
evening.
how are you? Good to see you again.
Yeah, same here. Edgar gave me a quick little note that you will be are you having a presentation for us today?
We have, yes, we have two items that we want to share with you. The first item, first let me introduce the folks who are here with me, and then we'll if you don't mind, and then we'll get into the presentations that we have for you. I'm joined tonight by Teresa Cruz, my senior borough planner for the Bronx. Holly Malone is on the call. She is the Green Wave coordinator for the Bronx. We have a couple of project managers. We have Carissa Lindstrom, who's our Mashalou Parkway Safety Improvement Project Coordinator, joined by Sarah Fella. She is our Gun Hill Road Project Manager. We have Dan Wagner, who's one of our engineers at the agency. And I thought I saw somebody else. Okay, I don't see anybody else. So that's the DOT team tonight. We have two presentations that we wanted to show you. We're going to start with Carissa because that's what you have on the agenda here first. So Carissa, if you want to, are we good to start the presentation? Co-chair?
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to show you, we had a workshop not too long ago. The community board participated, the community participated in some improvements that the community was looking to have made on Mashalou Parkway. And I'm not going to explain anymore because Carissa's going to do a fabulous job explaining what we're looking at, what we've been looking at here. Obviously, everyone knows Mashalou Parkway well. Most of the board, I see, lots of you guys all participated in this workshop last month. Actually, it was 2 months ago now at this point. Sorry, it was February, right?
Right.
Sorry, 2 months ago. So, Carissa, go ahead, take it away.
All right. Can everyone hear me? Yes? Okay.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Just making sure. All right. So I'm Carissa Lidstrand. I'm in the pedestrian unit at DOT. And we're here to talk to you tonight about Mashalou Parkway between Van Cortlandt Avenue to Southern Boulevard. All right, so I've split the presentation into background, existing conditions, and then the proposal. And so starting with some of the background, as Keith pointed out, we've actually been working on improvements along Mashalou Parkway for about the last decade now, mostly in the northern section, north of Van Cortlandt Avenue. But now we're wanting to continue the improvements in the southern section. And we've been having a lot of discussions with the Parks Department since the Parkway is also Parks land. And as Keith also mentioned, we had the public workshop in February, and we've also done a walkthrough with the Councilmember Dinowitz. So just a little bit on the safety data. Thankfully, there have not been any fatalities on this section of Mosholu Parkway, but something I want to note is that 50% of the pedestrian injuries were due to a left turning vehicle when there were pedestrians in the crosswalk. So starting with the existing conditions, I thought it'd be fun to do a summary of the workshop that was held in February. So what we have here is broken down by mode on the left, and then we have also different agencies and some of the conditions that came up. And the ones that are bolded are ones that were mentioned several times throughout the workshop. So some things to note are that there was support for reducing the number of lanes along the parkway, as well as reducing the speed limit. It's currently 30 miles per hour, so reducing that to 25. There was a lot of discussion about improvements to east-west crossings along the parkway. A lot are missing or not in good condition. And then there was also a lot of discussion about separating bikes and pedestrians, whether that's on the greenway itself or putting bikes in the roadway and adding some sort of protective element there. There was also discussion about how lighting could be improved throughout the parkway, as well as a lot of flooding that occurs in speeding. And so I just want to note that a lot of the things that came up in the workshop can be mitigated through short-term improvements, which we call in-house projects. So those typically have a quicker process, and our in-house crews can actually help to build some of the concrete elements as long as there's no utility conflicts, as well as do other improvements with temporary materials like painted pedestrian spaces. Whereas some of the other things that were noted in the workshop, like the deteriorating curbs or the major flooding issues, those would have to be done through a capital project, which typically takes a lot longer, usually 5 to 10 years. And that's where we can move utilities and have those discussions with a lot of different agencies. And this typically requires significant funding. So now I'm going to go into some of the existing conditions broken down by mode, starting with vehicles. So on the right-hand side, you'll see a graphic for Mosholu Parkway. For the purpose of this presentation, I'm going to refer to Van Cortlandt Avenue as north and Southern Boulevard as south. And then I'm going to reference the main line as Mosholu Parkway, and then the roads to the east and west that are East Mosholu Parkway north and south. I'm going to refer to those as the service roads, just for the context of this presentation to make it simpler. So currently looking at Mosholu Parkway, north of Van Cortlandt Avenue and south of Marion and Hull Avenue, the parkway is actually 2 lanes in each direction with turn lanes. And through our analysis, we've actually seen that the 4 lanes and 3 lanes that are in the middle of the parkway can actually be reduced to 2 lanes. So we can help to make the corridor more consistent in the number of lanes. And then, as was observed in the workshop, we've also observed this through our analysis, is that there is speeding along the parkway as well. And so taking a look at existing pedestrian conditions, a lot of these things came up in the workshop as well as in our observations. The first thing to look at is starting at Van Cortlandt Avenue. There is a missing sidewalk that connects to the school on the northern side of the intersection. You can see that in the photo as well. And then moving down to number 2 and 3, this area I'm going to refer to as the mid-block between Van Cortlandt and Bainbridge. As you can see in the photo, there is a desire to cross here. You can see that by the dirt path. And then on the service roads indicated by the number 3, it was mentioned that there's not a lot of crossings along the service roads, and these were 2 that came up. And then number 4, which is down at Marion Avenue, This is where the grassy median ends, and we have this excess roadbed space that you can see in the photo. And this creates a lot of long crossing distances for pedestrians. And then taking a look at the existing bike infrastructure, as you all know, there's the Mosholu Greenway that runs along the eastern side of the parkway. This is noted in the purple and blue. I just want to point out that some things we've observed and talked to others about is that the Greenway kind of changes in condition as you go from south to north. In the southern section, it acts as more of a sidewalk. It's right up against the roadway in that southern section. And then it changes to kind of concrete and asphalt paths as you move further north. And something else that's interesting that came up in the workshop is this desire for people to want to bike on the western side of the parkway. So that's the opposite side that the Greenway is on, noted as the number 2 on the map. So as I was mentioning, we have a lot of in-house tools that we can use. So these are the kind of short-term improvements that our in-house crews can help accomplish. And some of these you might recognize from other areas along the parkway. So painted pedestrian spaces is something we can use. This is at Mosholu and Sedgwick. And then concrete islands we can also implement to shorten crossing distances, provide visibility. A few other things like signal timing changes, upgrades to bike infrastructure, whether it's protected by what we call quick curb, which is kind of this heavy duty material as seen on the bottom left, and then flexible delineators in the middle. And then we have another treatment called enhanced crossings, where we can add crosswalks and signage to make pedestrians more visible and provide more of a pedestrian connection to the network. All right, so now I'm going to go into our proposal, and it's broken down the same way as the existing conditions in that it'll start looking at vehicles first and then pedestrians and bikes. So our proposal is to, one, resurface Mosholu Parkway. So that's the first thing, and all of our proposed elements will follow that resurfacing. And so that will be this year between Marion Avenue and Van Cortlandt Avenue. And then we also want to reduce the lanes to 2 in each direction to be consistent with the rest of the parkway network and include left turn bays at each of the intersections. You can see in the cross sections in the bottom here, so this is existing at Bainbridge, the top one, so it's 4 lanes in each direction. And we're proposing to reduce it to 2 with the turn lanes. And I'll get into the bike proposal in a little bit, but we are looking at doing one-way paths with protection along the parkway in the extra space. DOT is also exploring reducing the speed limit to 25 along the parkway as well, since that came up a lot in the workshop. Taking a look at the pedestrian improvements, starting at kind of the top at Van Cortlandt, we would like to install a concrete sidewalk along the north side of Van Cortlandt to create that connection between the school and fill in that missing connection there. And then moving south, we will signalize the mid-block crossing and add a concrete sidewalk there that will connect to the Greenway path as well as the existing park paths on the west. And then at East 204th Street, we'd like to install an enhanced crossing similar to what's on the bottom left photo, as well as at East 206th Street, install an enhanced crossing. To add that intersection, we'd also like to add a small concrete curb extension to add visibility. And then down at Marion Avenue, that's where the median ends and we have that extra road space. We want to build a concrete island with trees to provide a safer crossing for pedestrians here, as well as add shorter crossing distances. And then taking a look at the bike network, we would like to install protected one-way bike lanes between Marion Avenue and Van Cortlandt Avenue, as we saw in the cross-section earlier. And then add a few concrete islands at Van Cortlandt Avenue as well as Marion Avenue, or at Bainbridge, sorry, to provide more protection for bikes. An example of that is seen on the bottom left photo of the concrete island with a one-way protected bike lane. And then we're also proposing to add a two-way protected path between Southern Boulevard and Marion Avenue. That's the section I was mentioning earlier where the greenway is more like a sidewalk condition and can be constrained at times. And so bringing the bikes into the roadway with a form of protective barrier. All right, so I know that was a lot to digest. So this is a summary of everything that we've just gone through. But we also, since this is in-house work that our crews would be doing, we want to phase the project. And so we're looking at about 3 phases, starting with phase A, which would be this year. And what we're looking to do this year is the roadway resurfacing between Marion and Van Cortlandt. And then the markings changes would come with that. So that would be the reduction to 2 lanes in each direction along the parkway, as well as the one-way protected bike paths. And then signalizing that mid-block crossing and adding that concrete connection, as well as adding the enhanced crossings at East 204 and East 206 Street. And then phase B would be looking at the concrete sidewalk on the north side of Van Cortlandt Avenue, as well as a few concrete islands. And then phase C is between Marion and Southern, where we would build that concrete island at Marion and then provide the two-way protected bike path that connects to Southern, and then possibly reconstruct part of the island that's down at Southern to accommodate bikes. And so looking at phase A, which we're planning to do this year in a little more detail, so that includes the resurfacing plus the reduction to 2 lanes in each direction with the one-way protected bike paths, as well as the signalized crossing for the mid-block that connects to the greenway and the existing park paths. And then the 2 enhanced crossings, one at East 204th Street, and then the other one at East 206th Street, which also includes a concrete curb extension on the southeast corner, noted by the number 2. So coming back to this, so that was phase A, and then phase B and C are future projects. Again, looking at the sidewalk along Van Cortlandt as phase B, and then phase C would be the connections at Marion with the concrete island, as well as the two-way bike path. And so we think there are a lot of great benefits to this project. As I was mentioning earlier with the safety data, with the left-hand turns and the pedestrians being in the crosswalk, reducing the number of lanes to be more consistent of 2 lanes, that really helps to clarify traffic movements. Everyone's kind of more visible to each other when the roadway's a little more narrow at the intersections, including crossing distances can be shortened, which helps with accessibility as well. And then we'll be providing new pedestrian crossings at the mid-block being signalized, and then at Van Cortlandt where there's no sidewalk currently. And then we're also helping to further enhance the bike network in this area. And that's our presentation.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions with regards to the presentation from DOT? Okay, I see a couple of hands up. Okay, so give me a second, and we're going to start with David Paul Gerber. You had your hand up first. What is your question?
Yes, hi, good evening, everyone. I want to thank you for the DOT presentation. That was very informative. Thank you, DOT team, for that. One of the issues that I raised at the February 1st meeting, and I was there, Mr. Cab, I remember we were discussing this about the area where above the 52nd precinct where the NYPD has their vehicles parked on the sidewalk above Webster Avenue overpass, and it creates a very dangerous condition. Understandably, this would be under Part C, or what can be done when you make the two-way bike lane in such a way where it will prevent these vehicles from illegally parking the sidewalk, and they can only access the parking lot to and from there.
Right, that's a really great question. So that would definitely be something that we want to explore in phase C. Obviously, we would, with a two-way bike path, we would provide access to the parking lot for NYPD still. But we can look into different measures for restricting any sort of sidewalk parking.
But ultimately, it should be understood that that is still going to be a NYPD issue, challenge, whatever the word is. You have to work with them as much as the DOT can do what we can do, but they are a partner that we have to work with as well. So we would look forward to ongoing conversations about that.
Yeah, as we get closer, sorry, Teresa Cruz from DOT, as we get closer to that phase, we'll reach out to the precinct and see if we can work with them on the status of their vehicles.
I'd like to note the Webster Avenue down below where the BX41 Select bus service and local service uses what's called a bus lane in both directions and starts right and ends right by the precinct northbound. These vehicles take up the bike lane, and DOT does a lot of work in providing better bus service for not only the Bronx, but all boroughs, as well as trying to make everyone safe and get to their destination as fast as possible. But when you have vehicles taking up the bike lane, the buses mix in with the regular traffic, and that slows it down. So it's a tough predicament for DOT to try work with the NYPD, but the NYPD, to be honest with you, has their own thing, what they want to do.
Yeah. Hey, it's Keith. Sorry, I'm actually attending two meetings at the same time. Sorry, we are overbooked tonight. We're also presenting at Community Board 9, so I'm listening to both meetings. Sorry.
Yeah.
We understand the concerns. Under no circumstances should the police department be parking on the sidewalk along Marshall Loop Parkway or anywhere for that matter. But we don't control the police department.
Right. I understand.
The community and the residents of the community should reach out to the precinct and express their concerns. We have no enforcement ability.
I did
Oh.
to the last community board meeting. And what they called was.
But I think Carissa explained is that when we do that section C, we're going to be looking to relocate the bikes off of the sidewalk to make that connection.
Okay.
Jean, I'm sorry, David Paul, let me just put in a suggestion that if you like, send either on the chat or send via email to the board all those extra concerns, and maybe at some point, once this project continues to go, maybe it'll be an idea to maybe have the 52nd precinct or someone, a representative of them, to find out exactly if they have any plans to work with the DOT in making this project a little better for everybody. Because
all right.
Okay.
I sent one as an example. I'll send a couple more.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
We will appreciate it.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
David.
We'll take a
Thank
look
you
at
very
them and we'll make sure, I'll make sure that Edgar follows up.
Jahira,
Yeah, I couldn't hear.
we lost you.
I have a question. What's the duration on this project? How long?
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead with my question, with my comment, then while we get Jahira back.
Please, Eric.
So I want to say that it's a great proposal. Thank you for taking all of our comments into consideration. And one question that I do have is, as part of adding that southbound lane on the Moshulu Parkway on the south side, would that include like redoing the curbs at that location? Because the curbs at that are along the parkway are pretty bad condition. So I know that Evo said that some of these are capital improvements versus, I'm just wondering how would that work?
Right. Are you referencing the section south of Marion or just Moshulu in
No,
general?
between Van Cortlandt and Bainbridge per se.
Okay. So we're not planning on replacing any of the curb as part of the in-house work. You're right, that would be more of a capital improvement, but we're hoping that with the resurfacing of the parkway, we can help with any of, any of the issues that might be out there currently. I know it won't be perfect, but
right. I'm just wondering because once you install the bike lane against that side, is it going to be an issue with flooding for the bikes, etc.? Since there is no curb at that location, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. So our crews will work to kind of pitch the roadway in the right direction to minimize flooding impacts. We're also proposing to make the bike lane fairly large since it was 4 lanes in that section and we're reducing it to 2. We'll have space to provide a larger bike lane so that there's more of a buffer from that curb so that the bikes aren't right up against the edge.
Gotcha. Okay.
Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you now, Jahira. And so then after the crosswalk that's being proposed at the mid block of between Van Cortlandt and Bainbridge, then after that we will have a 3-lane roadway, which includes the left lane towards Bainbridge, right? Is that the idea?
Right. So there will be this kind of mid-block intersection between Van Cortlandt and
then
Bainbridge.
we'll have and then as we get closer to Bainbridge, we will have a left turn lane.
Correct.
Available, right?
Yeah. So this striped space will turn into a turn lane closer to the intersection, and same going north to Van Cortlandt as well.
Okay, great. I think that was all I had in questions. Andrew, you have a comment?
Yeah. I have a million questions, but one regarding the police parking on the sidewalk that is part of the greenway. It's not just a sidewalk. There are physical barriers that can very easily be erected on the sidewalk to prevent anybody from parking on the sidewalk while still maintaining the driveway to the parking lot. The people working the precinct are no different than anybody else. They want to quickly park the car and get to work. There actually is plenty of parking. There's the lower parking lot. If you go by, you will see there are many empty spaces, but of course they prefer to quickly park on the sidewalk. So yes, DOT can erect physical barriers on that sidewalk, and they should. The second thing is the plan's pretty good, but as usual, what happens when you go north, Van Cortlandt, what happened? What is the bicycle rider supposed to do? Like where is the connection? Think of, somebody with a family with a bunch of kids, and all of a sudden this nice, fancy, protected bike lane just what are they supposed to do?
Right. So the bike lane on Mosholu Parkway is in addition to the greenway as another path that can be used by cyclists. And so because we don't have enough space north of Van Cortlandt to continue the bike lane in the roadway, you would connect back to the greenway path. And there are the existing bike lanes that are on Van Cortlandt Avenue going east-west as well.
But, how do you?
Hey, Andrew, I just want to Andrew, before we get into that, I just wanted to address the first concern. Physical barriers are something we can look into on the structure on the sidewalk, but you got to keep in mind that that is a bridge structure. It's not actually just a regular sidewalk. And so the same kind of physical barriers that we put to stop cars from going onto sidewalks, they're required to be drilled into the ground or anchored into the ground, if you will. And I don't know that that's physically possible on that sidewalk. But we can certainly take a look at that option.
Could use planters.
Planters are movable.
Anyway, so yeah, I was just, the devil's in the details. Again, when you're proceeding north and you hit Van Cortlandt, I can't.
We agree with you. I'm not arguing the point with you. I'm just saying that it seems like a really easy solution, just bolt some things into the ground, but that's not always the case. But we're willing. We will work with the community, and we will work with the police department to ensure that they do not park on the sidewalk in this area. We'll approach them about it.
All right, but just getting back to the Van Cortlandt going north.
All right, go ahead.
Maybe somebody should consult with like Bronx Transportation Alternatives, like biking groups, to get an idea of what type of signage to use. Because again, if we want to encourage families and people to ride their bikes in protected bike lanes, all of a sudden your protected bike lane just ends. And I understand the logistical problem, but how can we accomplish the connection? That's the question.
I completely agree with you. We're definitely looking into all of the bike connections. And because there is the existing greenway there, that's a great connecting point. But we definitely want to make sure that when you're actually biking, that you realize where to go and be. So we can do that with signage and markings and looking at different ways to improve the infrastructure as well.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. Next, Ugo, I saw your hand raised. Do you have a question?
Yes, I actually have two questions. The first one is about the mid-block crossing. Does that entail putting up stairs on the north side, or that's just with the crosswalk being improved?
So the mid-block crossing includes a concrete sidewalk across the grassy median, as shown in the middle here. And then we'll connect to the existing paths of the greenway, as well as the existing park paths. Unfortunately, our in-house crews cannot build the path that leads up to East 206th Street, that would need to be a capital project.
Okay, all right. And then the second question is, at the earlier stage, did you guys look into emergency vehicle lane or bus lane? Moshulu Parkway is used during the summer for parades and street fairs. So I don't know how these changes will affect the capacity to have all those vehicles and stuff parked there during those times.
Right, we do run all of our projects through internal DOT as well as through FDNY and all of the different agencies.
So all of that was taken into consideration is what you're saying, basically.
Yeah,
Yes.
so yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Ugo. Next, I am going to call on Carrie Shumway. Do you have a question?
I do, thank you. It's just a quick one also about that mid-block crossing that you said that there will be a light. And I was wondering if the light is just going to be timed to go with the others, or if it will be one that's only activated when there's actually a pedestrian planning to cross with a button or something.
It will be synced with the other intersections at Van Cortlandt Bainbridge. So it'll be coordinated with the existing signal infrastructure. So you won't have to push a button to cross.
Thank you.
Okay, next, Eric West. Bronx. Eric?
Hi, yes. Good evening. I have two questions. The hydrants, they're not being enforced. Every time we do a 311 call, NYPD comes, they only give a ticket to the vehicle that we report. But if you keep walking down the avenue, you see more cars in the hydrant, and the only get ticket is the one that we report. Is that normal or why?
That's a question you'll have to ask the police department. We have no enforcement capabilities at the New York City Department of Transportation.
Eric, that would be
Okay,
something
so that's
that you
not
may
okay. That's
want-
not an issue.
Okay,
It's a separate agency.
Eric, that's something that you may want to bring up at the public safety meeting. The 52nd precinct always attends. You may
Yes.
want to bring out that concern there. What is your second question?
Well, I don't know if it's NYPD now. And Jerome, there's 204th Street. There's a tire shop. I think somebody did mention this to the NYPD that there's a truck there parked with tires. They use it as a storage. So the tires has gone so high that it's still parked there. I mean, it's like it's a danger that anybody, you know, there's a fire.
Okay, that would be something, again, that would be something for the public safety and the 52nd precinct.
Okay, I mean, all right. So
If you
we
like,
did something.
you can put your information in the chat. You can put your information in the chat, and I can have someone from the office follow it up with you with the district manager so that they
Okay, I'll do that.
can set you up to talk to the appropriate agencies. Be taken care of. Is that okay?
Okay, yes, fine. Yes, thank you so much.
Okay, perfect.
All right, good night.
Good night. Barbara, I see your hand.
Good evening, everybody. With the midway crossings, will we lose any trees?
No, we are coordinating all of this with the Parks Department, and we will not be losing any trees.
Thank you.
Lowell, you have your hand up?
Yeah, my question is, at this point in time, does DOT need a letter of support from the community board to go forward in this proposal, or are they just going to do it?
Well, Lowell, we always want a letter of support from the community board if the board is in favor of this proposal. We would love to have a letter of support from the board, but it's not required.
Okay. Can I recommend then that the committee take a vote to support this project and that we pass it along to the whole board?
So this will be a motion on the floor for this. To be quite honest, I don't know if we can have this vote right now. If you give me a second, maybe I can get the direct answer.
Because
But
we
if
do have
in
a
the meantime-
quorum present.
Yes, we do. But unfortunately, it was not a part of the agenda. And I really would like Edgar, since he is chair, to be a part of this discussion as well, since this was an agenda created by him, not by me. So if you give me a second, I'll try to get that answer for you. In the meantime, Eric, you had a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to do a follow-up question. Are you also proposing new traffic or stop signs at East 204 and East 206 Street
Here, let me
on
bring
the
that
Motulo
up.
South or North sections?
So right now, both of those would be enhanced crossings. So let me go find a photo. So it would look like this, where we have pedestrian warning signage, as well as the crosswalk markings and upgraded pedestrian ramp. The law has just changed recently, that now New York is a stop for peds instead of a yield to peds. And so some of this signage could change in the future, but it's still being discussed by DOT.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
No, I don't believe it.
Andrew, you had your hand up?
Yeah, with regards to the motion, I mean, any board member can make a motion, and if it's seconded, only if it's seconded, then a discussion can take place, and then a vote can be taken. In my opinion, for this, I think it's premature. I would like to see a little bit more detail, and I think the rest of the board may have questions also. This is a very important project. I think the details are important. And I personally don't have enough details to vote myself.
I agree. I think we should, as a board, and well, as a committee, excuse me, take this back. And I guess, Keith, I guess what you're asking is we'll be asking for a letter of support for this project, correct?
I'm actually not formally asking for a letter of support. Lowell asked if we were looking for one. We're not formally requesting a letter of support, but of course, we would like, if the board is in favor, to give us a letter of support.
Okay.
If they're in favor of us, progressing with this project, for the important safety improvement project.
Noted. There is also on the agenda, there's also the link to this presentation.
Yes.
So that everyone can see it. If it's a letter of support, would we all be in agreement to do so?
Actually, the link is to the old presentation of February 1st. It should be updated to the new presentation.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it was from the workshop.
Workshop.
Yeah.
For the workshop.
But we'll have a new link tomorrow. We'll have it online tomorrow, so we can send you the link.
Right.
Great, thank you. We would appreciate that. You can send it over to the office. Barbara, you have a question?
Am I correct in assuming that between Bainbridge and Van Cortlandt Park, south or east, whatever it is, there will be one more traffic signal?
Yes.
Okay, and the other places that you mentioned, that will just be enhanced crossings, but no traffic signals?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Were everyone's questions answered? Andrew, you have your hand up again?
I just put in the chat just a quick thing. I mean, I think it's pretty simple to do. You could do some bioswales. You just put a gap in the curb, so the storm water will be diverted onto the green part of the parkway, so the grass can grow and the trees and all that, to avoid the storm water from going into our catch basins and ending up in the river, the Hudson River, et cetera, et cetera. That's all.
If that's all, I'd like to move on to Keith. I also see there's a Gun Hill Road presentation and a Jerome Hill Road Municipal Parking Garage.
Yeah, so you guys, I'm Sarah, I don't know if we just lost you.
Oh, wait,
There we
can
go.
you all hear me and see me?
Sarah Fella there is going to give the presentation for that.
Okay. Hey, good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you, Keith, for the introduction. My name is Sarah Feller, sharing my screen right now. Can you all see this?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay. All right. So my name is Sarah Feller. I'm on DOT's bus priority team. I'll be here tonight talking about Gun Hill Road. I'll also note, I know there's a few things on the agenda tonight, so I'll try to be thorough but succinct. You know, basically just quickly for context, let me make sure, there we go. Just quickly for context, you know, this is our first presentation to CB7 about this project. We want to put in bus improvements for the bus passengers who use Gun Hill Road, as well as pedestrian safety improvements and safety improvements that benefit everybody for all modes of transportation. We do want to do it this year. So we're looking at a fairly quick project timeline. We do not have a plan tonight. We're really just talking about the existing conditions and getting feedback from you on what the issues are and you know, what we can do to make the street work better. I see there's something in the chat. Okay, sorry. Okay, and questions and answers and discussion we can go ahead and do at the end. Let's go ahead and skip into the introduction. So why are we looking at Gun Hill Road? Obviously, it's a very busy east to west corridor through the North Bronx. It's busy for all modes of transportation, all different kinds, times a day, days of the week, but particularly we have 40,000 people a day riding buses on Gun Hill Road, which is just a huge, huge, huge amount of people who rely on the bus routes that use this street. Obviously, they're getting to several different train lines on and near Gun Hill Road, lots of different local bus connections, Montefiore Hospital, Co-op City, the Bay Plaza Mall, and all the neighborhoods and businesses in between. It's, you know, there's a lot of destinations on Gun Hill, of course. And because it is so busy with bus passengers and but also so slow and so congested, it was named one of 10 key Bronx corridors for investment in bus priority. That was based off of a plan that the MTA and DOT put together a couple of years back, alongside all the other streets here throughout the borough. This project also comes out of the New York City Streets Plan. This was released late last year. The takeaways from this really are that most of Gun Hill Road is in a tier 1, a top tier priority investment area, areas that deserve investment in making transportation better. And it also comes out of the MTA Bronx Bus Network redesign, and my colleague Senna from the MTA can speak to that process.
Everyone, yeah, so as Sarah mentioned, the Gun Hill Road corridor was identified in the Bronx Bus Network redesign plan, and the ultimate goal of that plan really is to just improve local, limited, and select bus services in the Bronx. And after a very extensive public outreach process, which hopefully some of you were all involved in, the plan was finalized in late 2021, and it's ultimately been scheduled for implementation during the summer. Just so that everyone's aware of what the changes are on Gun Hill Road. As part of this plan, the BX30 will now operate on Boston Road, and the BX28 and 38 will get improved frequencies to make up for that change. So once Bronx Bus Network redesign is implemented, customers can expect BX28 and 38 buses every 8 minutes on weekdays and every 5 to 6 minutes during that peak rush hour period. I'll pass it back to Sarah.
Thanks, Senna. And so, you know, some of the core issues we see along Gun Hill Road, obviously we have slow and unreliable bus service. We also have a really concerning safety problem on Gun Hill Road, a lot of crashes, a lot of injuries, and even a couple of fatalities. People have actually passed away after being involved in a car crash on Gun Hill Road. And that's something that we really, really need to address with this project. And also, of course, lots of traffic congestion, especially in the CB7 section, as well as near the Bronx River Parkway. we all know, of course, this street has 2 travel lanes and 1 parking lane in each direction. It's a 60-foot wide street, and we all know that, but it's part of what colors what we can do with the space that we have. And double parking is a big enough of an issue that we really wanted to call attention to it and make sure that we address it in this proposal. Again, especially in the CB7 section of Gun Hill, lots of double parking. The street often operates with 1 lane of traffic moving instead of the usual 2, because there's always someone double parked in one of those 2 lanes. And there are things we can do to address that in terms of the curb regulations, making sure that that if someone needs to, pull over to go to a business, to make a delivery, to drop someone off, pick somebody up, that they're able to do that without having to block traffic. Senna, would you like to speak to bus speeds on Gun Hill Road?
Sure. Yeah. So as Sarah mentioned, like one of the core issues on this particular segment of Gun Hill Road is slow, unreliable bus service. That traffic congestion and double parking that Sarah showed on the corridor really slows down bus service and makes it difficult for us to deliver that high quality service to transit riders that we want to deliver. So this slide really shows bus speeds along the Gun Hill Road corridor for the BX 28 and 38. And as you can see, buses are generally moving slowly all day with speeds of less than 7 miles per hour. And then ultimately during those critical peak service hours, speeds can dip as low as 5 miles per hour during the 6 to 10 a.m. period in the westbound direction and 3 to 7 p.m. period in the eastbound direction. And these speed reductions ultimately result in longer travel times for our customers. When daytime speeds are lower than overnight and evening speeds, it can add 15 to 17 minutes of additional travel time for those customers who are traveling along that entire length of Gun Hill Road. And that increase in travel time makes it difficult for us to deliver, constantly reliable bus service throughout the day. And then just to give you all just a little bit of the context on the data that we're showing, this slide shows route level bus speeds over time during the AM and PM peak periods. Average BX 28 speeds are ultimately underperforming compared to the average Bronx borough-wide local bus speeds. As you can see, during the pandemic, average speed gains on the BX 28 were also lower than the Bronx borough-wide averages. And despite these substantial speed gains during the pandemic, our average speeds have ultimately declined with the return of traffic and are about kind of where they were pre-pandemic. So one of the main goals of this project is to recoup those speed gains that we saw during the pandemic and improve bus reliability, since we're currently only seeing about 65% of bus trips on the BX 28 and 38 completed within 5 minutes of scheduled time. So those are some of the goals on the MTA side for this project.
Excuse me. Thank you, Senna. So moving on to crash history, as I mentioned, we do have a pretty acute safety problem on Gun Hill Road. We crunched 5 years of crash data for the whole corridor. So this is the CB7 section, but all the way out to Bainbridge Avenue, from Bainbridge to Bartow Avenue, which is over by Co-op City. And in those 5 years, between 2015 and 2019, which are the most recent 5 years of data we have, we had over 1,200 injuries in those 5 years. On average, that's almost 5 people a week injured in crashes on Gun Hill Road. And that includes vehicle passengers, pedestrians, everybody, and people in all modes of transportation, not just pedestrians, have been injured and severely injured. This places it in the top 10% of the most dangerous Bronx streets. It's probably worse than just being in the top 10%. Unfortunately, that's just the figure that our system gives us. As a result, this is a Vision Zero priority corridor, which means that we're looking to invest to make this street safer for all modes of transportation to use. And there's a wide range of tools we have to address that. So overall, what are our goals and what are our challenges for this Gun Hill Road project? Number one, we want to make bus service fast, reliable, and on time. Number two, we want to make Gun Hill Road a safer place to walk, but more importantly, a safer place for all modes of transportation. And number three, we want to organize traffic movements to try to avoid, the kind of chaos you see sometimes on Gun Hill Road today, and you see it here at the corner of Webster. Additionally, looking at some of the challenges that we have, and this is just the beginning of it, but traffic congestion, a broken street grid, there's not a lot of alternative routes, especially if you're trying to get over the parkway. We're definitely aware of that, and we're looking to, some of those issues we can address. Some of the issues are, well beyond the scope of this, like the street grid, but we're aware of them and working with them. So now I'll move on to the DOT and MTA toolkit, as well as some past bus priority projects and the results of them. So, we have a wide range of, and this is just the first slide. This is mostly the bus lane slide, but there's a wide range of different kinds of bus lanes, and anything that we do, all of our projects are designed to meet the needs of each specific street and each specific block. There's no one size fits all project, and this kind of reflects that. So starting, I'm going to go kind of out of order, but if you can see my cursor, you have classic curbside bus lane like we have on Fordham Road right now. One step up from that is the offset bus lane here in the top left. So like we have on Webster, where we keep the parking, and then right next to the parking lane is the bus lane, which is good if you need to park, and it's also good to help keep the bus lane free of parked or double parked cars. We also have center running bus lanes. You can see that here on the top right. This is 161st Street in the South Bronx near the courthouses. Obviously, this bus lane is physically protected. There's no reason for a car to get in it, so the bus can actually use that bus lane. We also have busways, which are also called transit and truck priority streets. This is 181st Street in uptown in Manhattan, where buses can use it, trucks can use it to drive all the way through. Other vehicles are able to use it as well, but only for one block at a time, for the block they need to access. And then finally, we have queue jump signals. And this is on E.L. Grant, a little bit south of CB7 in the West Bronx. And this is a special traffic light that gives the bus a 7-second head start to get ahead of the traffic on the next block. We also have bus stop tools to make bus stops work better. Obviously, we have benches. We also have leaning bars, which are great for folks for whom it's easier to lean back than to sit and then get back up. We have physical accessibility, ADA accessibility. So here's an example on the bottom left of a place where there was a grassy strip between the sidewalk and the curb. We filled in that grassy strip with concrete, and that made it accessible for a wheelchair user, or for someone with a walker or a stroller or even a shopping cart to roll right onto the bus, make that ADA accessible. And then finally, we have bus borders, which you can see here in the top right. This is extending the sidewalk into what used to be the bus stop. And you can see here, you can do these in concrete, or you can do them. And we have this material that's like it's like a very durable kind of plastic rubber material that's easier to install. And you can see that the bus, instead of having to pull out of traffic, oftentimes it'll get to the curb at an angle, which makes it harder to deploy that wheelchair ramp. This way, the bus can just stay in its lane, pull right up to the bus stop, parallel, and folks can get on. Pedestrian safety, as I mentioned, is going to be a big part of this proposal as well. We have, a wide variety of pedestrian improvement tools. We have your classic, pedestrian island in the middle of the crosswalk. We also have bus boarding islands, like here in the top right. So this is mostly used for bus passengers, but it goes all the way back. You can't see it in this picture, but the bus boarding island goes all the way back to the crosswalk. And so if you're crossing this street, whether you're using the bus or not, this functions as an island to protect you as you cross the street. We also have the ability to extend existing medians. So this is 149th Street near the hub. And you can see that we lengthened, you can see that the new concrete that's lighter versus the old concrete in the background, if you look closely. We lengthened this median so it reached the crosswalk. And we also widened it around the crosswalk, so folks actually had like a sizable refuge. And then finally, we have curb extensions, and this is just a treatment that we use just at a corner. And Gun Hill Road has a lot of these, less so in CB7, but more further east. You have a lot of these wide angle turns, these kind of funky shaped intersections. which presents safety concerns, and we can just go ahead and fill that in and make it more of a normal 90-degree, T cross-shaped intersection. And of course, all these things, most of these things we can do in either concrete or in paint. And the curb extensions in particular, we can do in paint with these flexible posts that keep cars out, but allows us to do a bunch of improvements and really fix up a whole street in 1 year's time. So, these are some of the tools we're looking at. Additionally, of course, there's parking. Again, one of our main goals is to make sure that if someone needs to pull over, that they can pull over without having to block traffic, block the bus, and that's a win-win when folks are able to do that. So things like adding meters to a block that doesn't have meters on it. Things like adding a truck loading zone in front of a busy store, like a grocery store, to make sure that they can get their deliveries without having to block traffic. We have a short-term parking pilot that we're trying out in different parts of the city, where part of the block is 1 hour regular meters, and then the rest of the block is 15-minute, no meter, no need to pay. You just pull over, do what you need to do, and then come back and move on, and that space is available for the next person. And then, in the most serious situations where you have the busiest blocks, we also sometimes put in no parking or no standing regulations that allow you to pull over, but not to stay there. Finally, some last tools. We do look at traffic signal timing in order to make sure that, does Gun Hill Road need more green time than it currently gets compared to the side streets? We can adjust that if we need to adjust it to keep traffic moving more smoothly. We also have transit signal priority, which is a smart traffic lights system that can detect a bus coming and turn a red light green or keep a green light green for longer till that bus can get through. We also have camera enforcement of bus lanes, both stationary cameras that are hung up on the street, as well as MTA has cameras that are mounted on the bus, just making sure that folks are following the rules and that the bus can actually use the bus lanes that we put down. That's a big priority. Whatever we put in, we want to make sure that it works and that the bus can use it the way it's supposed to, and that people can benefit the way that they're supposed to. And then finally, even simple things like left turn lanes and right turn lanes to make sure that, if you're waiting to make a turn, you can wait for the gap in opposing traffic or wait for the pedestrians to cross without blocking through traffic. So, that's our toolkit. It's a really wide range of things. And if there's other things that DOT uses that you'd like us to look at, or even things that we don't use, any ideas you have, we definitely want to hear them tonight. I'll quickly go through some prior projects, places where we've made bus priority improvements in the Bronx. The first one, the most recent one, is E.L. Grant Highway in the West Bronx. We put in center running bus lanes, and this is a pretty recent project, but we found that made the bus 3 to 14% faster in the eastbound direction and 8 to 16% faster in the westbound direction. And, that's in addition to reliability improvements. So, 10%, 15% may not seem like all that much, but it does make a big difference, especially when that's an average. The busiest times of the day where there's the most congestion in the street, the improvement is much greater. And I'll talk about reliability in a second, but these also help make the bus more reliable, making sure it comes on time and on schedule and one bus at a time instead of 2 or 3 buses at a time. Webster Avenue, we put in a project several years ago. This, of course, also is in CD7. And this made the bus roughly 20% faster, both directions, during both the morning rush hour and the PM rush hour. 161st Street in the South Bronx. This slide just shows a short section near the courthouses between Jerome Ave and Melrose Ave. And the takeaway from this really is that, the more we do to improve the bus, the faster the bus will get, which sounds really simple, but basically in the eastbound direction, we put in the center bus lane that you can see here on the left-hand side. That cars have no reason to get into or to block, and that they're physically prevented from doing so in some locations. And that improved bus speeds 32% in the morning, 46% in the midday, and 34% in the afternoon. So like a really transformative deal for the folks who commute on these buses to get them to work faster, to get them home faster. We're really proud of this project. In the westbound direction, we didn't put in as many improvements, but we still saw 15% in the morning, 18% midday, and 14% in the evenings. And again, that does make a difference. Additionally, I talked a moment ago about making sure buses arrive on time, not late, and making sure that they arrive one at a time at even intervals instead of arriving bunched all at once, where you wait a long time, 2 or 3 buses show up at the same time, one bus is full, the other bus is emptier. We really want to prevent that, and we need to prevent that if we're going to provide the service that New Yorkers deserve. So on 161st Street, for the full corridor, and we didn't even put in bus lanes on this whole street, just on certain parts of it. And what we saw is that we saw a reduction in the percent of buses that arrive 5 minutes late or later than that. And we also saw a really big reduction in the percentage of buses that arrived bunched up together, from as high as 22% here to as low as 1 or 2 or 3%. And of course, it varies over times of the day and directions, but we saw really big benefits, and we want to bring some of these benefits to Gun Hill as well. Looking next at the work we've done to date on Gun Hill and the next steps. As Senna mentioned, this comes out of the MTA Bronx Bus Network redesign, more than 50 public outreach events that happened over the span of a couple of years for that project. It also comes out of, or rather, in support of it, we also did a merchant survey. We spoke with every single business on Gun Hill Road between Bainbridge Avenue and Bartow Avenue. I'll talk about that in a moment. We've also spent a lot of time out on Gun Hill. I've been there myself many times. I go regularly, different times of the day, different days of the week, just block by block, walking the street, standing there and watching how traffic works, watching, just trying to understand the nature of the problems and what the right solutions might be, riding the bus back and forth, et cetera, et cetera. We do a lot of that. We crunch a lot of data as well, both MTA data and traffic data. And we also have time-lapse footage, and you can see here in the bottom right, we set up cameras that take a photograph every minute automatically for a few days in a row. And this way we can sit there and just watch traffic all day long from early in the morning to the evening to better understand, again, over the course of the day, over the course of the week, what are the problems and how do they vary? Because traffic's always a little bit different. In terms of the merchant survey we did, so last year, DOT visited every business on Gun Hill, all the way from Bainbridge to Bartow. We did this in cooperation with the Jerome Gun Hill Business Improvement District. Huge thanks to them for all their support on this. So for all the CB7 businesses, we actually went together. DOT visited the businesses in person with representatives from the Business Improvement District. And in total, across all of Gun Hill, 144 merchants took our survey on their delivery schedules and their challenges and their needs as it pertains to vehicle access. And so what we found is, we figured out the busiest blocks for deliveries where there are the most deliveries. We found, and also the nature of double parking. So in this case, about 30% of businesses said that when they get deliveries, those delivery vehicles need to double park and block traffic. Again, that's a lose-lose. We're trying to prevent that from needing to happen. And it was especially pronounced in CB7 west of Webster Avenue, because we all know that part of the street is really, really busy. Looking forward to our next steps, right now we are here to talk about the existing conditions and the needs and the wants to make the street better. The feedback we get tonight and that we're getting from the other CBs and in other meetings will help shape our draft proposal. We're also crunching some more data and starting to develop some plans, or rather some proposals to see what works. We're going to come back to CB7 and come back to all the community boards in the late spring to share that draft proposal based off the feedback we get, as well as all the other inputs. And we're going to listen again at the June meeting. We're going to incorporate some of your feedback as best as we can. And then in the summer, we'll be sharing the updated plan. And our goal is to implement this in late summer into the fall. So we are looking to implement this and put this in the ground, get these improvements going this year. And so that's the presentation. I'm going to open up to discussion, and these are just a few, prompt questions, but, how does Gun Hill Road operate right now? What works and what doesn't work? What issues do you see on Gun Hill? Of the tools that we talked about, which of those seem to be the most useful? Which ones seem like they're less useful? Which ones do you have concerns about? We can talk through all of that. And then what role can DOT and the MTA take to make Gun Hill Road work better? Again, I think the our focus is on making sure that folks who ride the bus can get where they're going. But really, we're trying to make things better for everybody. All modes of transportation. Nothing is off the table right now. So please feel free and let us know your thoughts. And yeah.
Great. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Senna. Thank you, Keith, for putting this out there for us to take a look at. Lowell, I know you're a Gun Hill resident.
Yeah,
I
Max,
have
turn down the volume.
your hand was up. What are your questions?
Yeah. I have a big concern. The one area you didn't talk about, which affects me, is Bainbridge and Gun Hill. And I have a few suggestions. One of the crosswalks, it's the one, I guess you'd call it the West Bainbridge crosswalk. Maybe, and people will get upset with me, maybe we could take it out as not a pedestrian crosswalk. Because the 28 and the 30 come up Gun Hill and make a left on the Bainbridge by the hospital. And they get delayed by people crossing Gun Hill. And that's a long walkway, as opposed to the one on Bainbridge is a little shorter. The same thing happens when the 28 and the 38 go down Bainbridge and make a right. And they hit people making that crosswalk, that turn at the crosswalk, and they have to wait for people. And maybe things could move better if we took out that crosswalk. That's one. Two, again, it may not be politically correct, but on that block by Bainbridge and the hospital, there are plenty of, it says no standing, no parking. It is not enforced. And these, it's basically cabs. And I have no problem with them dropping off patients, but there's no place for them to drop off patients because these other vehicles have taken over these no standing, no parking zones. So if you're going to the medical arts building, the children's hospital, even the emergency room, you cannot get in because there's a whole line of parked cars with people sitting in them. Nobody encourages them to move. Then there's a whole nother lane of people getting dropped off and or picked up. And there's no enforcement. So if you want to see your bus times improve, that's the one block. Also, there is a food truck that parks as the 28 and the 38 are making right-hand turns. It says no standing, no parking, and there's always a food truck there. And it makes hard, and if the 10 bus is coming down Gun Hill and making a turn, there are two buses there, it makes it hard for buses to make a right-hand turn with that other bus there. And if you've not looked at the intersection, I'd be glad to show it to you because it's morning, noon, and night. This happens. Maybe Sunday, it's a little bit better. So
Certainly.
thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for those comments. And I'm looking down because I'm taking notes. All this is, I think it's blurred out, but I'm taking notes on all of this. And yeah, I was out there myself maybe about a week and a half ago during the PM rush hour, just sitting there watching traffic for the better part of an hour. All those problems, I've noticed all of them. You know, the turning buses, and it's hard because you have buses turning left and other routes turning right. I know about that food truck. I don't know what the legality of that is because it says no standing, but I know that a food truck is considered an attended vehicle, but we'll look into that. And we're also meeting with NYPD. And of course, enforcement is something that is in their hands and definitely not in our hands, any kind of enforcement, except for automated enforcement cameras is a thing that DOT does do, but we can forward these to NYPD as well when we meet with them.
And the Gun Hill Ed, I can understand the delivery trucks. I mean, I live on that corridor between Webster and Bainbridge. And we don't go up that way because it's not delivery trucks, which we know will be there. It's people who are running into the deli.
Totally.
And I will tell you, it's a big problem in the 52nd precinct. People run in and they leave their cars running and they leave the keys in them. So they've had a lot of cars being stolen that way.
Wow.
But it is, it's not the delivery trucks that are the problem. It's people who are just stopping and running in, be it the pizza or the cup of coffee. That is particularly on the block right before Bainbridge. So thank you.
Yeah, we see a lot of that. Absolutely. And that's another thing that we're going to be looking to address through curb regulations, trying to make sure there's more available spaces on the block.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much, Lowell. I know you've always brought the attention of the issues at Gun Hill Road, and I know you want them resolved, some way, somehow. So thank you for that. Andrew, you had your hand up. Andrew?
Sorry, I had myself. Yeah. I also would be remiss to not bring up Bainbridge and Gun Hill Road. One of the senior ladies who was killed at that intersection attended the senior center where my mother did and was a friend of my mother. And every time I pass that intersection, it disturbs me that we as a society would allow a situation as dangerous as it is to continue to exist. And part of it, a big part of it, is human behavior. We have the New York City ambulances, the Montefiore ambulances on Bainbridge, big signs, big red signs, no standing. And what are they doing? They're there. And the pedestrians, it's hard to explain. I'll gladly meet you and show you exactly what I'm talking about. But pedestrians who are crossing, they see the cars are not moving in both directions, and they're not supposed to walk, but they start walking, and then the light changes, and the vehicles enter the intersection, and then you have pedestrians standing in the intersection and cars. Also, the surface. Has anybody walked? The surface of that roadway it's like the surface of the moon, and it's been that way for like over a year. And we really, really, we owe it to the people who have died and lost their lives to do something about it. Thank you.
Thank you. The intersection of Bainbridge, the DDC project, the DEP water main trunk project is still ongoing north of Gun Hill at that intersection, and they are still actually working at that intersection. So once that work is completed, that roadway will be, Bainbridge anyway, will be totally resurfaced.
Thank you, Keith. Good to know. Eric, you had a question?
Yeah, well, I had a comment, and what I see a lot of the times is that the city has implemented, or DOT has implemented a lot of these bus lanes.
I'm so sorry. Can you just start over? I feel like it's really muffled. Is that just me?
And the
No,
buses
it's
don't
Eric.
use-
Eric, it's not coming
Eric.
through.
No, it's not. Eric.
Eric, you're not coming through.
Eric,
Okay.
for some reason, when you started your comment, it got broken off. Can you say it again?
Go to some, I'll be back.
Okay. So while Eric gets technical difficulties taken care of on his end, does anyone else have a question that they'd like to pose to DOT at the moment? Eric, if anything, put it in the chat or send it via email. You have access to sending over the information, and we can answer it for you.
Can you hear me now?
Now we can hear you.
Yes.
Okay.
And we also have
what-
our chairs here, Mr. Edgar Ramos.
What I was saying was, like, a lot of the times, we see these improvements for the bus lanes, and we get all these bus lanes everywhere, like on Webster, like on Fordham. And a lot of the times the buses don't even use these lanes, right? So how can we get that message across to the MTA that they are meant to be used by the buses or any bus, right, in particular, instead of being sitting in traffic with the rest of the traffic of the regular cars, right? So how is that going to be any different at Gun Hill Road where you have such a big traffic approaching Webster, right? Where is a big major traffic hub there? And also at Bainbridge, I agree with Lowell, like that intersection requires a lot of attention. Maybe it's moving maybe it's moving the crosswalk further away from the corner, like they have done around Radio City. Maybe it's doing something like that that will kind of deter from that in allowing the buses to turn better. I don't know, but I'm just concerned that we keep adding bus lanes for them to just sit there.
Sure, great questions, Eric. I'll start with the first question you had about making sure the buses use the bus lanes. And we agree, if we're gonna make an investment, we want the buses to use it. But ultimately bus operators, and I'll let my MTA colleagues speak to this as well, because I think there's two pieces. There's making sure the bus lanes are not blocked by parked cars, which is a DOT issue because it's about the streets and private vehicles. And then there's the issue of, and then there's like, how do bus operators do their jobs? And that's an MTA question, but I'll start with the DOT side, is that, ultimately, like if you stand, at a bus lane corridor, Webster's a great example, and you stand there and just watch traffic. And if you look both, if you're sitting on the sidewalk and you look down the street in both directions, it's difficult for a bus to pull into a lane or to pull out of a lane. And so if the bus lanes are blocked by parked cars or double parked cars, and the bus has to, and there's a parked car every 2-3 blocks, then it doesn't make sense for the bus to use that bus lane for the blocks in between, because it has to pull out of traffic and back into traffic. And so, that's part of our job, part of my team's job is, it's not just the bus lanes, it's the curb regulations. Again, so if there's a block that isn't metered and there's a lot of parking demand, add meters to that block. So instead of parking there all week, folks can only park there for the amount of time that they need to be there. Like I said, on the busiest blocks, no standing or no parking. And, there are sometimes enforcement issues with that, but there's things we can do about that. Also, enforcement, bus lane enforcement is a really high priority, and it's something that we're getting better at every year. We're expanding our enforcement programs. That includes bus lane enforcement cameras that are mounted on streetlights at a fixed location, as well as cameras that are mounted on the bus. And so if you park in a bus lane when you're not allowed to, and a couple buses pass you by over the course of a few minutes, well, then you're blocking the bus lane and you're prone to get a ticket. You can still pull over for a minute or two at a time if it's a curbside bus lane, but that's one reason why we try not to do curbside bus lanes. But basically the bottom line is, we have different tools at our disposal. And I totally agree with you that if we're going to do a bus lane, let's make sure we do it right and buses can actually use it. And that's part of our toolkit and part of the process here. MTA folks, do you want to add on to that?
Sarah, I think you really well covered it. I mean, ultimately, if I'm a bus operator, right, and I see cars parked in what's supposed to be my lane, I'm not going to be able to get out of it once I stay in the lane if there's something blocking me. And, a bus is going to end up backed up behind that car for however long it takes to get out of the lane. So unfortunately, our operators do have to kind of avoid obstructions like that. And oftentimes, with the curbside lanes, there can be more obstructions than other types of projects. But I think with this one, we've really grown, we've learned from what we have deployed in the past. And I think we're also looking to using good design to kind of discourage drivers from using the lane improperly, from having it blocked. And that way, hopefully we can see some free flowing bus operations in the lane. But yeah, thanks, Sarah. I think you really well covered it. We're also expanding our on bus camera enforcement program as well. So there will be many more buses with more with what they call able cameras. So hopefully we'll be able to kind of catch people in the act should they be violating our design and our regulations once they are deployed. So thanks.
Thank you,
Thanks, Senna.
Sarah. Thank you, Senna, for answering Eric's questions. We do have our chair, Edgar Ramos. He has a question.
Good evening. Do you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Basically, the biggest thing I guess is we had, or the other thing we brought up during the discussion of the gun hill plan was the part of by Webster Avenue, the overpass to the Bronx River Parkway. That's kind of a no man's land. That's not really in anyone's community board, but that's going to be a challenge. Because I guess there's three parts to it. There's design, right? There's courtesy, and there's common sense. Sometimes you do the great design, but due to the lack of courtesy and common sense, our plans don't work as well as we'd like them to, or as they should. I know that that's on your list, and that's part of your concerns. I don't even have a thought of what to suggest for that one little piece, because there's so many things going on there. The entrances to the parkways, the bus crossings, and just the amount of traffic over at over the Bronx River. That it's a concern, and it's going to be a problem.
Definitely. And yeah, Edgar, I completely agree. It's really hard. It's a challenging section around the Bronx River Parkway from Webster to Olinville or to White Plains. We're looking at it. We're really giving it a really thorough look. Right now we have our traffic engineers doing traffic analysis on this section and trying to figure out what we can do. And yeah, the traffic is really heavy. Obviously the nearest alternate routes across the parkway are a mile to the north at 233rd or a mile to the south at Allerton Avenue. So it's really challenging, and the problem is kind of baked into the way that the street grid is designed, where there's almost no through streets. But we're going to be giving it our all for certain, and you'll hear more from us on that in the future.
Great, thank you. So we're going to keep moving the agenda along. We have here the Jerome Gun Hill Road Municipal Parking Garage. And there's, I guess, comments and feedback regarding parking assignments procedure for elderly or differently abled. Do we have any follow-up with that? Keith, if you're talking, you're muted.
Of course I was talking. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Of course I was talking. And of course I was muted. I didn't quite understand the ask. You guys are getting complaints from folks about the parking lot. By the way, Sarah, thank you very much for that thorough presentation on Gun Hill. I think Sarah's going to drop off now. Thank you very much. And I'll stay. Me and Teresa and Holly will stay to talk about the other items.
Thank you so much, everyone.
I'm not. Yeah, could you explain to me exactly what the issue is here?
There's actually not an. I mean, the issue was with the concern that was addressed to you guys. You guys addressed it to us. You guys told us that it was explained to the people that control that process, and that we're further on. I don't understand why this got put on the agenda for today.
Okay.
Because it wasn't something that was still ongoing. Because the way I understood it was you spoke to the people that run the program, what the concern is, and we hope between now and the next time that reoccurs there and at 190th, that a different procedure or there is some type of alleviance done for the handicap that had to provide have to be online for parking.
So you're talking about the process for actually getting the parking permits.
Correct. That's
gotcha.
That's
okay. Yeah. We did speak about that. I'm sorry. I was trying to figure out. Okay. Parking permit process.
Yeah. The other
quarterly.
Was, right. Correct. The other thing was the email I sent you about the parking lots completed,
yes.
But that's totally separate from this.
Yes. That's I received your email and I I got an update, actually. That email was about the electric vehicle chargers.
Correct.
And I am happy to report that we have secured a source to get the parts to replace the EV chargers in the municipal lots. So they haven't been fixed yet, but we have secured a vendor. Our parking group has secured a vendor. They are in the process of procuring the parts that are needed for there are different parts for different charging stations that need different things. And so they're in the process of scoping out what that contract looks like. And I think that I anticipate we'll have those repaired this summer.
All right, that's awesome to hear, because that impacts both the one on Dunhill that we have and the one on 190th Street by Fordham Road. Okay,
that's correct.
I appreciate that answer.
And just remember, there's also a on-street charging station in Community Board 9, just off of Gun Hill.
Well, we also have the one at Lehman College by Paul Avenue.
Correct.
We have the one over by the Gun Hill bid office. I think it's like across the street.
DeKalb Avenue, Putnam Place, and Bedford Park Boulevard.
Right.
Correct.
So those are all within CB7.
Right.
But like I said, the reason why I brought that up was because it was ongoing. I didn't want to think people forgot.
No, we didn't forget. We were,
Right. No, I know that
government works really slow with these kinds of things,
Okay.
and the technology, when those were installed, those were sort of state of the art at the time. They're at least like 10 years old, I think.
Yeah.
If not close to 10 years old. And after, they wear and tear on them, they break. And so the procurement of those specific parts for each of those EV chargers required some time. And like I said, we're happy to report that we're the pieces and the vendor has been selected with the parts, and we're now in the process of procuring them. And we anticipate the restoration of those chargers very, very soon.
That's great to hear.
Thank you. Lowell has a question.
I remember a discussion. It was somebody who raised the concern about how the bills were the people who had permits were paying, and that people who were disabled wasn't what they figured or thought about was a correct way for them to pay. And I didn't remember all the details. About the first of the month, everybody's lined up to mail the letters or something.
No, that wasn't about the payment. What it is there's a procedure for both the parking lot on 190th and Jerome and the one on Gun Hill. The parking permits it's not like you can email in for them or mail for them. Basically, in order to get a permit, you have to stand in line. I believe, what is it, quarterly or twice yearly?
They're quarterly. The permits for municipal parking lots are distributed quarterly, and it's on a first come first served basis.
Right.
I think if we went to an electronic option, I think they're nervous that they might be sort of scooped up electronically by folks who may not be in the community. And then you'd be bidding for them probably like on eBay or something. Right.
I lived on Grand Concourse, and I used to use the Jerome Municipal Parking. And every month I would have to go online and basically try to be online at a certain time. If not, you lose your monthly, you wouldn't get your monthly access to the garage and pay a lot less than I would have a regular parking lot.
Right.
Thank goodness I don't have to do that now, but it is done online. However,
it is. Okay.
It's gonna come first, first basis, and you have to be online, and it has to be, it's a process, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's definitely a process. Well, they're very well sought after.
Right.
They're a high demand.
Yep. We're hoping the next time around there's someone attentive to because it's something where it's inside the building and they had people line up outside and nobody was attentive really to the line outside. If someone was, then they would see, someone that comes on the line that's got some kind of impediment. If there's something would be worked out for them. I think the other issue was that there were very few actual handicap spots, so they don't want to fall too far back into line because they might never be able to get a handicap spot also. But
Right.
there's courtesy, there's common sense, right? So I used it before and it kind of falls in here now. There's no real 100% safe process where someone's not going to sit there and get 100 of them and start trying to, like you said, sell them on eBay. You know, it's unfortunate, but I can't suggest a way to better that process. I just don't know a way.
I know it's not a consolation, but you know, folks who have legitimate handicap issues, impediment, should also be requesting and applying for parking permits for people with disability for on-street parking, which would essentially allow a person to park on any street in any no parking area, a truck loading zone, or at any meter without paying the meter. So I think that if folks who need a parking spot, a handicap municipal parking spot, if they are in need of that, they should probably also have an on-street parking permit, which you can apply through our website, the DOT's website for.
Okay, great. Moving along with the agenda, because it's 8:19. A lot of us want to have dinner. I ran from work to home, and I just want to make sure I sit down and eat at a decent time tonight. We have the open streets overview. I'm not sure if that's, Edgar, if that's completely a part of.
No, basically Molly sent us an email. We want is basically so that we can discuss it and let people know that if they have suggestions on where there should be an open street, any recommendations, any wants or ads, because during the last open streets program, there wasn't really that much participation or that much recommendation of streets. So we're just letting people know that the process is starting. And if you have any recommendations for any open streets or any organizations that would like to help sponsor the open streets, so please start getting the names of the streets and the information in to DOT that this is the time to start getting that information in. If I said that correct, Holly?
Yes, thank you.
Okay,
yes,
great.
and I just have, if that's everything on the agenda, I just have one quick thing I want to advise the community board about. Car Free Earth Day is happening on April 23rd, and the DOT is planning to do a car free day on the Mashalou Parkway. So we would invite everybody to participate in that. I will have details a little bit later on. I don't have everything finalized, the schedule or what the performances and such will be, but we are anticipating at least a couple of different performances as part of the car free day along there. And there'll be some learning opportunities, and some of the well-known institutions will be tabling as well.
Great, thank you. We look forward to that. Eric, you have another question? And then lastly, Andrew, following Eric. Eric, we can't hear you.
Eric, you're muted like me.
At the intersection of Grand Concourse and Moshulu Parkway, where you guys did the new island and everything, there's a walking sign to cross the Grand Concourse into that lane. That makes no sense.
Okay, we'll take a look at it. It's on the parkway or on the concourse?
It's on the concourse.
It's on the concourse.
Yes.
Okay, I'll take a look. I just actually was obviously just up there the other day, but I'll take a look. I don't usually come from the concourse on the Mashalou. I usually transverse through the Mashalou. So on the concourse at Mashalou, there's a pedestrian signal that is in the wrong spot, or
right, exactly.
Okay, we'll take a look at it. I'll be out in the field tomorrow taking a look at some locations. I'll take a look at this concourse at Mashalou.
Great, thank you. Appreciate that. Andrew?
Yeah, just for clarification, the event on Mashalou Parkway You're talking about the main roadway. The service road will still be available for vehicles?
That's correct. That's correct.
I just have one quick question also, since you're on the line. On that email that I sent you about the charging stations, there was also a question there about the bus time, the clocks. Has there been any update on that?
There really hasn't been an update. They're talking about the RTPIs, right?
Correct.
The real time pedestrian information.
Yes.
We are installing them as quickly as possible.
Mhm.
They are generally funded by the local city council person. I don't remember if there are any in CV7 that are scheduled in the next batch, but I can check.
I know there's been some additions. So,
Yeah.
But like I said, I know there was a concern about the ones on Fordham Road and the ones on the I believe it's the concourse. Just so that people can get a better idea when the buses are coming.
Yeah, if you want to give me specific stops, I can find out if they're scheduled to be installed, and then if they're not scheduled, when they're scheduled, or if we have funding to install them at those locations.
Okay.
Okay.
Can do that.
Keith, two quick things. Eric, you're sharing your screen again.
Oh, sorry. Oh, this is what I'm talking about, Keith.
Okay. Do you mind if I take a picture of it while you have it up? Isn't technology wonderful? If I can find my camera app. I'll go take a look tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah, that looks like that's the end of the concourse. When you make that left, when you're coming down the concourse, you have left or right, but there's no sidewalk on the other side of that walk sign. So it's
Right.
Where the people coming?
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, I've seen that
Alright,
one. I've seen that
Keith,
one.
two things coming down the pipeline for you. One, I have a complaint of the light changes on Sedgwick and Fordham. The turning lane coming from west to east, right on Sedgwick, and the crossing time do not coincide together. It's kind of off because people that are turning, when they turn, the pedestrian walkway tells you to walk, but yet the cars are turning coming from west to east. So that's,
I'm sorry, I heard Sedgwick and Fordham,
yes.
but could you explain to me?
Okay,
So
you know, if you're coming- if
when
you're
vehicles are traveling east or west, they are often in the direct conflict with vehicles.
With the
with
cross-
pedestrians, with turning
Yes.
vehicles are always in direct conflict.
Correct.
That's why we try and give leading pedestrian intervals at intersections,
But
especially.
it's not because I cross it every morning. And
Okay.
I've been paying attention to, I've been counting how long it takes, and I've caught myself crossing and the cars turning onto me.
But-
And I yelled at a lot of people for it.
Good. But
so
I want to
that's
understand, if
the
you are crossing, you are physically crossing
I'm going west.
Sedgwick. No, then you're crossing Fordham,
No. I am on Sedgwick.
right?
Going to cross west, going towards, like if you were going to the Metro North on University Heights. I'm going
Okay.
in that direction. So
Okay, towards Manhattan, right? Okay.
towards Manhattan. So the pedestrian light that's on Sedgwick, but next to it is Fordham Road Lane. When the
Right.
cars are coming from west to east and turning,
To go south.
the pedestrian light does not coincide.
Okay.
Also, when the light on Fordham changes green for the turning cars to turn on Sedgwick to make that right, has the same issue.
Right.
So
Okay.
just give you that little complaint to take a look at.
We can certainly take a look at it. So the PEDs are in direct conflict with turning vehicles at Concourse. I'm sorry, not Concourse.
Sedgwick
Fordham and Sedgwick. Okay.
Correct. And there will be more on the side of DeVoe, where the DeVoe Park is.
Right.
That
Right.
crossway right
By
there.
the oval.
Correct.
Right,
And then the
okay.
second, my other concern, you've already known, I told you for years, is the appeasement on right here at Fordham Hill, where you cross the street to the bus stop. And I had a study done when Navarro was the commissioner, and we were told that there was an appeasement and there was nothing that could be done. I would like for that to be taken a look at one more time, if possible.
The parking lot, right?
No, the one on the side of Fordham Hill, there is a crossway painted that
Right.
allows us to cross
Oh,
from one
yes.
side of the building to the bus stop.
Yes.
However, there's no stopping the cars because we get caught in the middle crossing to the bus stop. So I would like that to be taken, one more look. It's
You
at
want the
main-
crosswalk reinstalled?
No, the cross is painted there. It's just there's no stopping the cars when the pedestrians are crossing.
Gotcha. Enhanced crossing.
Correct. And last but not least, something that's going to come to you, which Chad has been working on, is getting a petition from PS 80. Hold on one second. See.
I'm gonna need another piece of
members.
paper.
Yeah, there's a lot today.
Jahira, I think I told you I was going to take care of that.
Okay, never. So Edgar's gonna follow up with
but-
that. So don't worry about
but
that.
in-
So then with
The only-
that,
just going back to what you were mentioning earlier, one of the things that we were thinking about or we were suggesting was, the elevated crosswalk on Kingsbridge down by the library.
Yeah, Library Lane or Coles
Yeah,
Lane.
correct. We were thinking maybe something like that might be appropriate there on that crosswalk to slow the vehicles down a little bit. Because we know you couldn't put speed bumps because of the buses, but those extended speed bumps don't impact the bus and allow for vehicles to slow down a little because of the bumps, correct?
Say that again?
You know the elevated crosswalk you have
Right.
at the library?
Yes.
We were thinking something similar to that at that crosswalk that leads to the bus stop might be applicable only because you can't put the little speed bumps because of the buses, right? Because you have bus routes that run up and down there. That maybe that might be a less impactful way for the buses that they can slow the drivers down going into that area, possibly.
We can take a look at it, but we only use that the elevated crosswalks. We use only at intersections.
Okay.
So you're essentially asking for a speed bump
Right.
mid-block
Mhm.
at an existing uncontrolled crosswalk.
Right.
Yeah. I don't. I don't remember how that crosswalk got installed because we generally do not install crosswalks that are uncontrolled. And I don't remember the genesis of how that got installed or who installed it.
Okay. But like I said, it's just a thought of an idea, basically. Sorry.
We can actually, if it warrants a speed bump on that segment, because that's Cedric there. We could, and what's that? Father Zeiser, between Father Zeiser and Bailey, I guess, right? Right, that would be the next intersection.
No, Webb is right there.
Oh, Webb. That's not Father Zeiser. That's Webb.
Correct.
Sorry.
Right. Mhm.
So between Webb, where's Father Zeiser then?
Father size is further up.
Oh, it's
further up on Webb.
it's on the other side. Right. It's after. Right. Okay. Yeah.
What I was talking about is I literally like my bedroom faces it right there.
Yeah, but between Bailey then and Webb, right, is what we're talking about.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. Okay.
And this is why in front of Fordham Hill Cooperatives, there's that painted crosswalk with no way of slowing down the cars or making them stop so that the pedestrians can actually cross.
Yeah, and we get a lot of complaints. From folks in the Oval about going through the light that actually is installed by the parking lot.
Correct.
You know, I get 311 complaints all the time about enforcement there because apparently cars just blow through that traffic signal.
I park at that parking lot because I live here.
Right.
And they run it like it's like it doesn't exist.
Yeah. Maybe maybe we can look at speed cushions along the corridor. Speed cushions are sort of a newish, I wouldn't say brand new, they're newish speed controls that we can install on bus routes.
Okay.
I'm trying to think where we have them in the Bronx. On Sedgwick, under essentially like by the you know where Cedar, like under like I think it's like Bossable place. It's a little, it's like down by the by I-95, like on that section by
That's
Cedar.
on the opposite side, on the opposite side.
Yeah,
As if you were going to, BMCC.
Yes.
Mhm.
So let me see if we can do speed cushions along that stretch and see if it's a candidate for that. And then, because we can't do a speed bump, and a raised crosswalk is essentially a speed bump.
Right.
We'll take, listen, I guess it's been years of me trying to get something. I will take whatever you can give me at this point.
Okay, let me look into that. And there was
Great.
one other thing you said, the school, or that's not?
No,
that's okay.
That will be taken care of. There was also, we have another issue here on Sedgwick is drag racing, speed cars, all that good stuff happening. And the summertime is coming, so we know what's coming down the pipeline. We're aware of that. But Keith, thank you. I appreciate it. We appreciate you in helping us out and hearing our concerns and bringing us up to speed with everything that's going on with DOT and letting us give you our feedback. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody, for having us. We appreciate it.
Any updates on Ford and Keith?
On the bus stuff, the Ford and bus stuff, I think the cab is scheduled. The next cab, I think, is scheduled, or we're talking about scheduling the next.
Yeah.
I can't remember. Teresa will remind me.
We're still getting the date ready, but once
Okay.
we have it, we'll send it to you guys.
We're working on the date right now. There's a lot of projects. This administration is really pushing for lots of transit and bike infrastructure projects. So we will be coming to you guys a lot. You will be seeing us. You're probably going to get sick and tired of hearing from us.
No, never sick and tired.
Never. Okay, so moving along with the agenda, MTA will not be presenting today, and neither will be TD11. So this moves us on to our next meeting will be Thursday.
Well, just real quick, Jahira, on the actual agenda, on the agenda is links to customer satisfaction surveys from the MTA. They would like us to try to take part of those. We can give them any information as passengers, or we can send out, because we sent it out to the community, to the whole community board. But just if you know anybody, or people that want to voice their opinion on what's going on with the MTA and different situations, those surveys are available, and they do try to listen to what their customers are saying.
I think we should have the staff send it out one more time.
Yeah, we did.
Keep it fresh.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Great. All right, perfect. So that's that. And then we move on, like I was saying, then our next meeting will be Thursday, May 5th. Getting closer to Mother's Day. I can't believe that. And any discussions to be put on the next agenda that anybody wants to bring up? Going once, going twice, sold. Motion to adjourn?
I present a motion to adjourn.
Anybody seconds it?
I second that.
Thank you, Eric. Well, guys, it is 8:38. We officially kept this meeting to 2 hours. I thank you all for coming and allowing me to step in for Edgar, who jumped in later on. So everybody have a good night, and we'll meet up again soon. Everybody take care and stay